As a quick preface, this will be the last part of the Good King Cold series for now, as I have been following the anime version, and this is where the anime stopped. I also haven't seen Superhero yet, but since that seemingly takes place after things like the Moro and Granola saga, I'm going to wait to cover it as well. Regardless, with the Tournament of Power being over, Cold returned to running his empire, which Broly had been in his forces for a while now. Since Paragus did indeed drop the whole revenge against Vegeta idea after a while, Cold thinks it would be fine to introduce Broly to Goku and Vegeta. This would mainly be so he could keep his promise to Goku about introducing him to strong fighters from around the universe, and he thinks he could help Broly as well. Also, Senta mentions that throughout Broly's time in Cold's forces, he likely would have met Chilai and Lemmo still, so we would likely still get some of the moments between them that we saw in the movie, as Broly would still get along with them. Regardless, back on Earth, Goku and Vegeta were sparring together at Bulma's summer house. Beerus and Whis were there too, but he gets annoyed from the sound interrupting his nap, so they take a break to eat. However, they aren't interrupted by Trunks calling to say the Dragon Balls are stolen, as Frieza obviously wouldn't be around to have his men steal them, so they also don't find out Bulma's wish of becoming 5 years younger. Back on Cold's ship, Broly and Paragus would have gotten their new sets of armor a while ago. The major difference here is that Broly would have lost the collar a while ago since Cold didn't agree with the use of it to control Broly. Eventually when he meets Chilai, she'd ask why he didn't put on the armor jacket, as she explains her stretchy, though she'd also still ask why he doesn't take off the pelt, with him still getting angry when she touches it. When Broly starts to tell the story of the pelt, Paragus is softened up by this time, so he doesn't force Broly to stop talking about it, so they would hear the story about Ba earlier than they normally did. Regardless, it's likely the Cold Force soldier would try to approach Chilai and hit on her, with Broly being suspicious of him. Lemmo tries to get him to go on his way by offering to pay for his meal, but he punches Lemmo out of the way, which angers Broly. Because if Cold is held, Broly would have better control of his anger, but he still approaches the soldier. His attacks do nothing to Broly, and instead of threatening his life, Broly remains in control and knocks him unconscious. Chilai and Lemmo would still hang out with Broly when Paragus was asked to go see Cold. He'd still be taught by them how to eat the snack bars, since he tried to eat the wrapper. Meanwhile, when Paragus meets with Cold, he would explain to him about taking Broly to Earth so that he could meet Goku and Vegeta, along with him explaining his promise to Goku, and how he thought this could help Broly get stronger, but also get his anger under control even more. When Cold's ship arrives on Earth, Goku and Vegeta would notice the other high power level with him, and they would be curious who this was. Regardless, when Cold and Banya exits the ship, Cold will have Paragus and Broly follow him, as he walks over to the Saiyans. He then introduces Goku, Vegeta, Paragus, and Broly to each other, which they would recognize Broly and Paragus as Saiyans right away. Regardless, Paragus would at first still have a brief thought of his revenge plan, but he would quickly squash his feelings down. He has been having a good and peaceful life in the Cold Force, so he wouldn't want to risk ruining that now. Anyway, when Goku asks what brings him there, Cold will say he was fulfilling his promise of bringing strong fighters for Goku to meet, as he brought Broly for them to spar with. Cold will likely explain who these two Saiyans are and how long they have been in his army, which would cause him to touch on Paragus' old revenge plan. Though he would mention that Paragus did drop that plan, and even if he didn't, Vegeta wouldn't care about it anyway. Cold will notice that Broly was itching for a fight, so he says that they can begin. So, after being given permission to start the fight, Broly would charge at Vegeta. Vegeta and Broly trade blows at first, though Vegeta does eventually get pressured by his attacks. While Cold and Paragus were observing this battle, Paragus mentions that Vegeta seems accustomed to fighting. This is when Cold will tell him that they are no stranger to combat, while Broly only ever sparred with Paragus before they were rescued from Vampa. Back with Vegeta and Broly, Vegeta would eventually be pushed to going Super Saiyan, which shocks Broly. Cold would have known that Broly couldn't go Super Saiyan though, so he isn't shocked. Paragus was shocked to see the Super Saiyan of Legend. He charges at Vegeta again, but he has had a major disadvantage in terms of both strength and speed. However, as the fight goes on, Broly gets stronger to the point he can tank a punch to the face. Broly then continues to get stronger, as he starts to put Vegeta on the defensive. Vegeta then retreats upwards and calms down, as he turns into a Super Saiyan God. This again causes Vegeta to gain the advantage, which causes Broly to be fearful of him, as Vegeta effortlessly dodges his attacks. Vegeta then catches one of his punches and sends Broly flying through the nearby mountains on the island. Paragus then falls to his knees since he thinks Broly reached the extent of his power, so Cold suggests they return to their ship. Paragus then tries to call for Broly, but he isn't listening to him. Even though Broly was trained to have better control over his anger, it isn't perfect, as him getting beat down by Vegeta like this started to draw out his anger. Even with Goku yelling at Vegeta to stop, he ignores him and blasts Broly down into the water. This is when Broly awakens his wrath state, as he rises from the water and screams in fury. Vegeta then gets a hit on Broly, but he comes out unscathed from this. Broly would then punch Vegeta and send him flying, with Goku starting to worry about it while Vegeta is feeling pressured. This worm catches Cold's attention, so he asks Paragus what is happening. which when he says he believes Broly achieved the power of the Great Ape but in his human form. Even though this form doesn't have the disadvantages of the Great Ape form, Paragus speculates that nothing can be done to control Broly now, which Broly then starts to punch Vegeta through mountains like what was being done to him earlier. So, as Vegeta was getting beaten down, Goku steps in and says it's his turn now. Goku interrupting just angers Broly more, but Goku starts to warm up as they trade blows, and he fires a Kamehameha at Broly. Of course, Broly isn't fazed by this, so he punches Goku down to the mountain. Broly then followed him and continued to pummel him, which Goku couldn't keep up, so he turns Super Saiyan, even though he's still outmatched. He briefly gets a one-up on Broly by teleporting behind him, though Broly quickly attacks him again and sends Goku flying into a mountain, and before he can land another hit, Goku turns into a Super Saiyan God. This time, however, Goku doesn't try to paralyze him to get him to switch sides, as they are already on the same side. This is just a sparring match. Broly then tries to punch Goku, but he manages to grab his wrist and slam him on the ground. This causes the ground to shake, and as the ground beneath Cold's ship gets damaged, he has his men take the ship away from there, with Bulma going with him so she isn't caught in the crossfire. Now with the ship gone and Bulma no longer there, Cold says that they are able to fight without any worries now. As their fight continues, Broly gets angrier, and even though Goku's landing hits, they aren't doing anything to him. Broly was seemingly getting larger too, and he eventually tries to stomp Goku into the ground, but he rolls out of the way. When he gets back to his feet and tries to attack Broly with a gravity bash, Broly crushes this attack in his hand. Broly then grabs his ankle and slams Goku around into the ground, before grabbing him by the face and dragging him through a wall. This causes Goku to not be able to move, while Broly screams in unbridled rage. Meanwhile, Piccolo was far away, and he calls out to Goku telepathically, as he sensed he was fighting someone formidable, with Goku explaining that it's just a sparring match, and Piccolo will be his escape plan. This causes Piccolo to realize he must be tough if Goku has an escape plan, but regardless, Goku then stands up and turns into a Super Saiyan Blue. Even though they are fighting closer now, Goku is still struggling, as Broly punches him to the ground. Broly then uses his Planet Crusher technique against Goku, which ends up changing the landscape around them, as it releases the magma beneath them. Paragus would again fall to his knees as Goku has the advantage, and Cold asks if this is as far as he can go, which Paragus says yes. However, Cold will remember Goku telling him how he became Super Saiyan through the anger and grief of his best friend dying. So, Cold has a plan, and tells Paragus that they are going to fake his death. Paragus might be reluctant at first to do this, but Cold reassures him that this will help his son get stronger, so Paragus agrees. Cold then pretends to panic and calls out to Broly, saying that his father was killed by a stray blast. This causes Broly to become a Super Saiyan for the first time, and when he uses Blaster Meteor, Goku can't fight back. Vegeta realizes Goku can't handle him alone, so he turns Super Saiyan Blue and jumps into the fight as well, which, they use the Gallic Kamehameha combo attack, but this still does nothing to Broly, so they then fly past Cold, which he fights back with Broly while Goku teleports himself and Vegeta to where Piccolo was. As they crash land beside Piccolo, they revert to their base form, with Goku saying he'll completely fill in Piccolo later. He then asks if Piccolo has any sensu beans, but unfortunately he doesn't. Goku then asks Vegeta if he knows about the fusion dance, and he does, so Goku shows off the poses for it. Vegeta refuses to do this dance, but Goku says it's their only option, as they don't have any Potara earrings with them. Vegeta still refuses, so Goku uses his trump card of asking if he's really fine with letting Broly destroy the Earth, which will also kill Bulma and his family. Even though this embarrasses Vegeta, he relents and agrees to do the fusion dance with Goku. Back with Cold, he was getting beat down by Broly while he was in his fourth form, so he then decides to break out his golden form, but even then he was getting beaten down. From there, Cold had to use his Ruby form, which does give him the upper hand, at least at first. However, Broly would still adapt to this over time, with his power continuing to grow. So, this is where I decided for Cold to show off something new he has been working on while training with Beerus and Whis. This would be continuing down the line of Cold's God Key form being based on the chakras. Since the last one was based on the root chakra, this one would be based on the Swadhisthana, or sacral chakra. Sacral chakra moves from the POW, with the root chakra, into a sophisticated stage of creativity. This is also the chakra that allows us to sculpt our rawness to refine ourselves into a creative beauty. Personality-wise, this would be an uplifting form that would encourage and stimulate his feelings of creativity and spontaneity. We'd also have a much more joyful and positive mood in this form. His energy would also be characterized more as flowing and flexible. However, there are downsides as well, since spending too long in this form can affect his way of thinking. His joyful mood can go too far and develop into feelings of frivolity and immaturity. This means he wouldn't be taking the fight seriously anymore and he would be behaving like a younger and less experienced fighter. Appearance-wise, since the sacral chakra is orange, he would be orange, along with him having a flowing orange aura. Since I was basing his form names on gemstones, this one would be called Topaz Cold, as Topaz is an orange gemstone. Regardless, this form would give Cold the advantage for a while, as his golden form was like Super Saiyan Blue in power, so he would be far stronger than that now. So, Cold would be able to stall Broly long enough for Goku and Vegeta to return. Bonnie would also help Cold in trying to stall Broly, so that makes it slightly harder for Broly to catch up. Back with Goku and Vegeta, Piccolo and Goku would demonstrate the fusion dance first, which Vegeta is mortified to see this dance, Regardless, they try after the demonstration ends, but their fingertips don't exactly touch, which Piccolo notices immediately. This causes them to end up as a chubby fusion, and Piccolo tells them what they did wrong. They must wait 30 minutes until they can defuse. The next time they try it, they end up in an emaciated form, as Piccolo says their pose wasn't exactly symmetrical, so they must wait another 30 minutes. The third time they try it, they get it right, as Goku and Vegeta fuse successfully, much to Piccolo's satisfaction. The fusion then struggles to come up with a name for himself, which irritates Piccolo, but the fusion eventually decides on the name Gogeta, and then he heads off towards the battlefield. Gogeta then arrives in front of Cold and Banyu, who lie indented in the side of a mountain, as Broly has lost interest in smacking the two around, as Cold did let his Topaz form get the best of him, so he fell into a state of immaturity. This caused him to fight sloppily, which led to Broly getting bored of this fight. Cold will recognize that they must have used the fusion dance, since this being looks different than when they used the Potara before. Regardless, Gogeta then teleports to Broly's new location, where he had started fighting with Beerus and Whis, so they were both there. Whis was lazily dodging his attacks while Beerus was getting aggravated by Broly disturbing him, though, before Beerus can erase him with the destruction energy he was charging, Gogeta appears in front of them. Whis realizes who this was instantly, and he explains who they are to Beerus, which shocks them both that they were able to fuse without the Potara. Broly then comes back and starts to fight with Gogeta, though he quickly realizes he needs to transform. After he goes Super Saiyan, he fires his Kamehameha, while Broly fires his gigantic Omega Storm, which when they collide it causes the fabric of reality to crack and shatter like glass. They continue to fight while Broly powers up into his legendary Super Saiyan form. This proves to be too much for Gogeta, so he goes straight into his Super Saiyan Blue form. They crash through different dimensions while fighting, and they eventually clash hard enough that they end up back in the real world. Broly tries destroying everything nearby with a gigantic catastrophe, and then Gogeta tries to finish him off with a Stardust Breaker, but it fails. Gogeta then dodges Broly's attacks while charging a Kamehameha, but he holds back slightly this time. He wasn't trying to kill Broly, he was just trying to knock him unconscious, which his blast would connect with Broly and succeed in knocking him out. Gogeta then defuses with Cold and Banyu approaching Goku and Vegeta. Paragus would stop pretending to be dead now since Broly was defeated and go to them as well. Paragus then helps take Broly back to Cold's ship, where he is put in a healing pod. Cold would then go on to thank Goku and Vegeta for giving Broly a good fight, and he would also let them know that when Broly isn't with him, he's usually back on his home planet of Wampa. Also, something to mention is when Bulma returns, she would have Goku and Vegeta go get the last Dragon Ball. After the last Dragon Ball is collected, they would then summon Shenron and wish for the damage caused to Bulma's summer home to be fixed. Anyway, Broly would eventually recover, and he would be confused but happy to see that Paragus is alive. Then when he finds out the truth about Paragus faking his death, he might be a little upset at first, but he would eventually get over it when he realized it was to help him get stronger. Goku then teleports to Wampa a couple days later when Broly, Paragus, Chi-Light, and Lemma were there. Even though Cold terraformed Wampa to be habitable, Goku still brought supplies and a shelter and a capsule as a gift, which he mentions he'd still like to fight Broly again, which Broly seems to want to fight again as well. He then goes to teleport away, though before he leaves, Chi-Light asks his name, which he tells him it's Goku, but he says Broly can call him Kakarot.